Jim Ferraro,
Yes.
Mr. Bill Cummins.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, calling the last case of the evening, BOA case number 25-2021. Applicant John, I'll probably not do this one too well either, Schneibel
That's good, yes.
and Lisa Schneibel. Got one right. Okay, good. Location block 53.07, lot 15, 11 Colts Lane. Applicant is for a C variance for hardship surface overage, a deck. Good evening.
Let us just get our files switched out here. Can one of you guys close that door, because there's more and more people congregating out there, and believe it or not, I can hear it. Okay, hold up
So
one
just
more
give him a
minute.
minute.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I don't need it. Jeff, do you have any idea of what's going on now? Probably. Okay. Just want to wait for Tony to come. I want to wait for Tony to come back in, if you don't mind.
Yes. Yeah.
Not that I want to lose Jeff also. Can you go out there and find out when Tony's coming back in?
And come back in.
Yeah, then come back in. I will say, this application is a very interesting application, because even though it's for hard surface coverage, what you've seen so far in the applications are where the requirement was 40%, it went down to 20. This one was 60%, it went down to 40. So
Mhm.
I've asked Tony about this, he has an explanation for his reason. But it's very interesting. You good?
Yes, I don't know what they want.
Okay. All right, can everyone, all four of you, please raise your right hands? Does everyone swear the testimony they're going to give in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yeah.
Okay, start down there. You've heard the routine already. Identify yourself nice and loud and slow, and spell your last name.
My name is John Schneibel, Schneibel.
And my name is Lisa Schneibel.
Jeff Accarello, Township Assistant Planner. Tony Hajar, Township Engineer.
Okay, now, if you guys don't mind, could I have Tony summarize this thing? Unless if you want to, you go for it.
I had summarized it. That's all I was gonna do. I wasn't gonna do a real
Okay.
presentation.
You go for it.
so-
You give your summary.
Well, no, my summary's kind of long. I was just gonna tell the board, if you would give me 7 minutes, that's what I had to read this, and then you can take your vote
Yeah.
and we can conclude the
Okay,
business.
what I mean is this, I want someone to summarize what relief you're requesting. And then you'll give all the reasons for it. Can you give a summary, like in 3 sentences, of what relief you want?
We're requesting relief to exceed the hard surface area from 40% to 49.5%.
Okay, and the proposed improvements are?
We want to build a deck on the rear of our house.
Over the existing concrete patio that exists, yeah.
The deck is bigger than the concrete patio, correct?
Correct.
Yes, the concrete patio is 140 square feet, and I think the size of the deck we're wanting to build is 447 square feet.
Now, you guys presented the computation about the impervious coverage. Was that done by a professional? How you come up with the different areas for the lot coverage? I'm just asking the question because we had a lot of issues with the other applicants. I just want to make sure you're not going to come back for or?
We're not coming back. That's okay. We're not coming
Uh,
back.
The measurements we got were a combination of both the person who developed or designed the deck as well as computations that we received back from the township engineer.
Okay, just so you understand why they're asking, let's assume after Ms. Scheibel, gives her 7-minute explanation, let's assume the board makes a motion to grant the application. And the application, as I understand it, is to allow where 40% coverage is allowed, you are proposing, according to the memo, 44.33% coverage, correct?
We are
Incorrect.
incorrect.
Right now, we're at 44.33.
Okay.
You're proposing 49.
Right, 49.5, sorry.
4 or 5, right?
Now, if and they're gonna have, if they grant the application, they're gonna have this requirement for an as-built survey
For what?
done by going down the road, assuming that they were to grant the application, a condition of the approval is going to be an as-built survey, meaning after the thing is built, you're gonna have to go get a surveyor to come in with the surveying instruments, do the calculations, and sign a certification. If it turns out that you have out there more than 49.45%, you're not going to get the permit. You're going to be back here like the other two people tonight. That's why Tony is asking for the basis for your calculations.
I understand.
So we're living and learning through this thing.
Let's see. Yeah, it was,
So why don't you now give your presentation, but no,
I mean, if you took it from the zoning office, I probably did it, but I did it with the
Yeah.
scale, and I'm not accurate, just so you know. I mean, the thickness of the line and putting the scale on this small drawing is not accurate at all. I just came up with a number, so I have justification, but in my opinion, that number is not 100% accurate, just so
Okay.
you know.
We understand.
okay, so why don't you do your thing?
okay. My husband, John, and I filed a C1 variance to permit the building of a new 440.
Whoa, okay, slow and loud.
I'm sorry.
She's taking everything you say down. We're not simply recording it.
Okay. To permit the building of a new 447 square foot deck on our 6,000 square foot property. The current hard surface lot coverage with the 140 square foot builder's concrete patio is 44.33%. With the proposed deck, the hard surface lot coverage would be 49.45%. However, even if we removed the concrete patio, we would still be out of compliance as the hard surface coverage would be 42%. There is nothing we can do to achieve compliance. Therefore, we are requesting relief from the strict application of this regulation that would result in exceptional and undue hardship. Am I?
I'm sorry.
Okay.
So we just want to understand, when you said the 42%, you mean the house and the driveway comes to 42%?
I'm saying everything else that is currently calculated in minus the concrete patio, we're at 42%. I'm sorry.
That's the house and the driveway, not the house.
the driveway, and the front
This front sidewalk, the porch,
Ah,
right. I'm sorry.
And this concrete deck is in the rear right now?
Yes, the concrete pad is in the rear of the house.
So this is what I don't understand. Is this deck being proposed over that concrete pad? or-
Yeah, yes.
So if they,
That's bigger than the concrete pad.
I understand. So if they eliminated the concrete pad, it shouldn't change anything because the deck is larger then.
Yeah.
Okay,
Correct.
I get it. Keep on going.
According to the municipal land use law definition, our proposed development is considered minor as the expansion is less than 25% of the existing hard surface area. The new deck would increase hard surface lot coverage by 307 square feet, an additional 5.12% of hard surface. The hardship results from conditions that are peculiar to the property because, one, the house is attached between two other single-family dwellings. Number two, is the smallest size lot for the neighborhood. Number 3, the backyard slopes to water drainage. More detail is provided in the application. This property contains all 3 conditions. Therefore, due to the exceptional narrowness and shallowness and topographic conditions affecting the specific piece of property, we are requesting relief. Variance can be granted without substantial detriment to the public good. The deck is consistent with the neighboring adjacent properties and does not infringe upon view, light, air, and open space. The deck size is under the homeowners association maximum limitation, and our plans were approved by the HOA. 25 of the 41 properties on Colts Lane have had decks and or patios installed. Therefore, the proposed construction is not out of character for our neighborhood. The variance will not substantially impair the intent and the purpose of the zone plan and zoning ordinance. In our application, we had provided different definitions and or examples for hard surface by the Township of Raritan, the New Jersey Admin Code, and the New Jersey Department of Environment Protection. It was also noted that Hillsborough Township specifically states that decks without roofs are not considered impervious.
Excuse me, you said Hillsborough.
Correct, we were just using that as an example.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Of
Go ahead.
one of the townships that do not consider decks to be impervious.
Right,
Okay.
but
as
you
long as it-
understand though, that they have,
I
they
understand.
have to
Okay.
apply the township ordinance.
Okay.
The new deck will have Trex deck boards installed on top of a frame, and the structure will not have any roofing. The Trex deck boards are not considered to be waterproof. To prevent water from going under the deck, Trex recommends installing a deck drainage system, which we are not doing. Therefore, while the deck boards do not absorb water, water will pass between the boards. An additional 5.12% of hard surface, a minor development, would not have significant impact to stormwater runoff, flooding, or erosion. Since the definition of hard surface, impervious surface does differ, and for the reasons stated above, detailed in the application, we ask for leniency in applying this rule to our particular property. I'm almost done.
Okay, go ahead.
The concrete patio is 20 years old and inevitably will deteriorate. Because the hard surface coverage is at 42% without any deck or patio, a homeowner of this property would need to apply for a variance to replace. Therefore, this is not a personal hardship, but a hardship that will be imposed on any homeowner of this property. The current patio has just enough capacity for 1 table, 4 chairs, and a barbecue grill. Due to the slope, the backyard cannot accommodate our family gatherings. The proposed deck would increase the home's usable space. This backyard creates a hardship that inhibits the extent to which the property can be used. That was the C1 variance application we submitted, but an update. When John and I bought the house in 2006, we always wanted to build a deck. Other houses in the neighborhood had decks, and there was no thought that it was unreachable as long as we saved. When the permit was denied, it was assumed that the neighbors either didn't need a variance or were granted a variance. Perhaps the builders were granted a variance to install our concrete patio. We faulted ourselves and thought, buyer beware. Since the board is not bound by case law, we did not investigate it further. Instead, we filed our C1 variance application and hoped for the best, our Hail Mary throw. After reading the December 8th memo to the board, it was revealed that in 2008, the impervious surface was amended from 60% to 40% for our zone. During 2008 and 2009 economic crisis, John and I suffered 3 layoffs between us. A deck was no longer on our radar because holding on to the house became the priority. So it wasn't buyer beware. Conditions were implemented so that the only outcome, unless a person is wealthy, was failure. Had our zone been amended to a moderate 50% instead of a harsh 40%, we would not be here today. We do not have the economic resources to fulfill a C2 variance requirement. This is the end of the line for us. Therefore, we respectfully request the board to vote in favor of our C1 variance application as it was submitted. Thank you for your consideration.
Couple questions.
Sure.
Why do you think the C2 costs more money than a C1?
We were told we have to get a bunch of soil samples, so we got an estimate that from a licensed engineer to come out and do the drainage testing. Part of the memo that was written on the 8th outlined some tests that needed to be done to make sure that drainage would be there. So we had an
Okay, I
estimate.
understand. What you're saying is you don't want to do what all the other people have done and make your property act as if it has less hard surface by doing that engineering. That's why you applied for a C1 instead of a C2. Is that what you're saying?
We didn't know the requirements of C2 to begin with. We requested a C1 because we thought that reasoning was good enough.
Okay, so let me ask you this. When you said other properties have decks, were these decks that were put on prior to 2008 or after 2008?
I can tell you when we bought the house, they had the decks, but I know last year, in fact, this past summer, 2 other decks were built.
Those weren't on our block, and those were significantly larger lots.
Yeah.
Right, because what the case law, and the board is bound by case law. When you said the board is not, this board is bound by case law.
Okay, it was it was our understanding that just because it,
Don't worry about that.
okay, that the board could grant our neighbor or the previous owner a variance, but just because you did doesn't mean you
okay.
have to grant us
Correct.
a
That-
variance.
Right, that's not being bound by case law. That's when they act on variances, the case law that they're bound by says it's case by case. Nothing's precedential. So if
And
they,
that's what I meant when I meant,
Okay, now I
said case
understand.
law. And you don't have to, you're not bound by any precedential,
well, no, they're
proceedings.
not bound. If they granted variances for other lots, just because they granted those doesn't mean they have to grant yours.
We understand that.
Right.
Okay.
That
But
was
they are
what-
bound by case law, and some of that case law says that for them to grant a C1, a hardship variance, there has to be some condition of the property that creates this need for the variance, and if that condition exists on other properties, they can't grant it, because the variance has to be, I'm gonna read you the C1 criterion, and this is the problem that I am seeing with the C1. The board has the power to grant the C1 variance if by reason of exceptional narrowness, well, okay, shallowness or shape of the specific property, or by reason of an exceptional topographic condition or a physical feature uniquely affecting a specific piece of property, or by reason of an extraordinary and exceptional situation uniquely affecting a specific piece of property. Then the strict application of any regulation, if it would result in peculiar and practical difficulties or exceptional and undue hardship, then they could grant a variance. There's case law back from the 1950s that says that specific piece of property within the meaning of the statute means that you have to consider a condition of the lot as distinguished from other properties in the zone. In other words, if every property on your street, if all these attached townhouses have the same condition, you don't qualify for a C1 variance.
Well, it's not all of the properties there. It's a decent percentage of the properties, but not all, that they vary in size. Smallest are 6,000, the largest I've seen are 8,500.
So the one thing you're correct about is if your house and driveway and front walk are now at 42%, your grandfather for the 42%. The issue is
Anything over 42.
anything over 42%, there's got to be some legal reason for them to latch onto. The board thought it was being creative by using the concept that these guys came up with that if you could make the property act as if it wasn't really at 42% by doing this engineering studies and putting in dry wells or whatever, then they've been granting hard surface coverage variances. Now, I understand you're making an argument that a deck is not, that is impervious, meaning.
Right. All I'm saying is that
I-
there's
but they-
different
they-
definitions.
Right, they get that, but in Raritan Township,
I know.
it's not impervious, it's hard surface.
Right.
So if you're saying that you're not willing to do that engineering stuff, I mean, you can ask the board, but I don't know how. if-
Let me
Yeah.
clarify. It's not that we're not willing.
No, you
I
can't-
got a quote and minimum $3,500 to do what that testing was and the reports, getting a backhoe, and like I said, doing all the testing.
So explain-
Paying for people to witness it.
Yep, explain, but they don't charge you for witnessing it.
And I understand New Jersey doesn't recognize a financial hardship, but the Schneibel family recognizes a financial hardship.
know.
So
They get that. So what is the non-financial hardship? I mean, the fact that the ordinance was changed in 2008 is not a hardship because they changed it all over the township. In fact, where your development is, you're allowed 40%. It was 60%. They reduced it to 40%. All the other people that have come in, they had 40% reduced to 20%. So the township already took into account that you're on a smaller lot by allowing your whole zone to have 40% and not 20%. So explain the non-financial hardship reason.
Hey,
for
John,
them-
can I ask a relevant question?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know who prepared your application. It's extremely well done.
I did.
And one of the
I
things that I
Googled a
gathered
lot.
from that is the fact that your lot is rather unique. If I remember correctly from reading, you're one of only 9 lots that's smaller than all the others. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
We have the smallest
On Colts Lane.
on
yes.
Colts
Right.
Lane.
We only took a look at what's on.
Now,
Colts
all of
Lane.
the other people, as I recall from the reading, they have decks, they have larger lots. Therefore, they
It can
could.
offset the hard
Right.
surface calculation, right?
I'm sorry, Jackie. So I guess my question is, that puts you in an unusual situation, which you should talk about, I think.
Okay.
Because in Carriage Gate, the houses are in clusters of 3 and 4 houses where they're connected. So the houses that are on the end of the clusters can use the side yards as part of their calculation. Because we're in the middle, we don't really have any side yard. Our lot is smaller, as my husband was saying. There are houses that have 6,000 all the way up to 8,500 square feet. We have 6,000. So we don't have any side, and our backyard is shallow and it slopes down. So even if we wanted to put use the yard itself for table and chairs for larger family gatherings, you can't. It's sloping down into a water drainage. So some of the other houses that may be in a similar situation where they're on the inside of that cluster, they may have flat backyards.
Or they may extend further back.
Or they
So
have,
you're
right.
one of 9 that has one of these lots that's only 6,000 square feet. Is that correct?
Yes.
On the Colts.
On the
main
Colts,
loop Of our
on the
development.
Colts,
of that.
Colts route.
Okay. And-
Right.
And I've got a couple other quick questions too. I assume that this is an HOA, that you own the land. This is not, in other words, it's fee simple. You own the property.
Correct.
Yes,
It's not common property like a condominium,
no,
Correct.
Right.
It's our
right,
property.
our
Okay.
property.
but you do have a sloping backyard, which even limits more the usable
Right.
space that you've got.
Right,
Correct.
They're also saying because you're a middle unit, not an end.
right,
Correct.
we're a
So
middle
be-
unit.
Because they're a middle unit, They don't
I
have
get it.
side yards. The end units have side
I
yards.
get it.
They got more land, so when you take the 40% and apply it to that, you can have more improvements, but they can't.
Right. I realize.
You may possibly have a C1 variance.
That's,
Let's just ask, is there any substantial negative impact either on, in general or on the zone plan or the master plan by them granting a C1 variance without some sort of condition that they do some sort of stormwater mitigation or something to lessen it? Because the board could impose a condition on a C1 variance to do that. Is there any negative that would happen if the condition was not imposed? And the other question is if the other 8 lot owners came in and asked, could the board distinguish those 8 cases from this one or not? I mean, technically, you go case by case.
right. I have a related question and that to Tony, and that is, they're coming before us asking about building this deck. Do any of those other 8 on Colts Lane have decks on them right now? And I'm only talking about the 8 that are 6,000 square feet or less.
Yes, there are.
Yes,
are.
there are.
Tony, do you remember any of them coming before us? I never remember anyone from Colts Lane coming here.
But the
There
question is, were those decks constructed prior to 2008?
Okay, that's the question. Well,
My best guess is yes. Before
Okay.
2008.
But listen, the best factual scenario would be if all 8 already have decks, they couldn't come back in. Do you know how many of the 8 have decks?
I
Yeah.
don't know the number off the top of my head.
I mean,
It's the domino theory.
yes.
Do you know?
not of those ones with 6,000. I don't have these marked on which ones are 6,000 on here.
We're unable to answer that question.
Take a break and do Google Maps.
Wait a minute, aren't these the highlighted ones for 6,000?
That's good.
Do we want to take a break so someone could do Google Maps?
That's a good idea.
That would be nice. Thank you.
I'd like to take a 5-minute. All right, Randy, you ready?
Yep.
Okay. Calling your meeting back to order?
Okay, so on the break, have you guys come up with any, mitigation that you could do in terms of maybe putting in a dry well or 2 on the downhill slope so you could somehow mitigate the additional stormwater that would be produced?
I think that the board, if they approve the C1 variance, it sounds like there would be some conditions of mitigation that we would have to do. For John and I, we would have to investigate what mitigation we can do. And if we can't do it, we won't move forward with the deck.
We'd have to look at the cost
Right.
to figure out whether or not we go forward.
So there's 2 ways of proceeding.
Mhm.
One way is, we'll give you some ideas of what that would be. Seek an adjournment, check out the cost. If you still want the variance, come back. Otherwise, if you ask them to vote and they grant it with these conditions, then I'm gonna have to draft up a resolution. And you're gonna have to pay me through the escrow to do that.
No,
And-
no.
So it sounds like you want to have some idea of what kind of conditions they would impose and then seek an adjournment so you could try to cost out what they would be and then come back.
Yes.
Yes, please.
You want to hear Tony's recommendations?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
So what I recommended is basically take approximately the size of the deck that they're proposing, remove the patio from underneath, scarify the ground a little bit, put a 12-inch bed of stone with the pipe towards the top of the stone, so we allow water to
Remove the patio, scarify the ground.
scarify the ground, put 12 inches of stone for the deck area approximately.
Mhm.
You know, the larger stone to allow for the void to fill in with water. Have a drainage pipe overflow to that drainage easement. And this way, the pipe will be placed towards the top of the stone. This way we have at least 12, maybe not 12, maybe 10 inches of storage. And we allow that 10 inches to infiltrate into the ground. But again, it may not infiltrate because we're not testing. We don't know whether it's gonna infiltrate or not, but at least we're retaining some runoff.
Okay.
And this way, they don't have to pay for the testing. They don't have to pay somebody to create a stormwater management design.
Okay. It's an option.
How does the board feel about that?
I don't think that's unreasonable, quite frankly. I think his suggestion is good suggestion. quite frankly.
I agree.
How many square feet is the deck,
Four.
excuse me, the patio, concrete patio?
140 square feet,
20.
So 10 by 14.
10 by
Yeah.
14, correct?
The 10 by 14, that's the concrete patio that's there now.
Correct.
And what's the deck dimensions?
I'm sorry?
The deck
Dimensions of
dimensions.
the deck.
The deck dimensions are
approx-
447 square
It's
feet.
approximately 15 by 30,
Yes.
like
Yeah.
15 by
Tony's
29.
condition is remove the concrete patio,
Right.
scarify the entire ground under the deck, and the 12 inch of stone goes under the entire deck area. to 15
They would
by
have to
30.
excavate and put the stone
Yeah,
under.
just so you understand, the stone is not going to where the concrete patio was. The
It's
stone is
going over
going
the
under the
entire-
entirety of the deck, 12 inches of stone, large stone pieces. So hopefully Tony says you'll pick up 10 inches of water capacity under that thing.
Do we need to excavate?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, because you want to put a pipe and the pipe, you know, extend the pipe so the water goes away from your house.
Okay.
And it sounds like the board thinks that's reasonable, and quite frankly, that's the least expensive mitigation that I've ever heard Tony say on any application.
Thank you,
Good.
Tony.
Okay, so we're gonna adjourn
Yes.
Yes.
and then you'll come back. Is there a time limit, Tony, that they have to do this?
I mean, when was this application deemed complete? What do we have, 120 days?
20 days.
We may need an extension for a vote.
Well, let me ask you this, how much? time
November
do you-
3rd.
How much time do you need?
Considering it's the holidays, probably 3 to 4 weeks.
I don't think we need at least a month. And this was complete November
Third.
3rd, December,
January.
January, February, March.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
When could they be listed?
Now we're booking for March.
You're booking for March?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So so let's get an extension to the end of April. And let's try to book this thing for the
March 3rd now? Is that?
March 3rd meeting. So let's say that the hearing will be continued
Without notice?
without need for further notice to March 3. And the applicant's going to give an extension to April 30. You agree?
Yes.
Yes.
Ian, you have all that?
Yes.
And what you gotta do is just get back to Tony with, if you're willing to do this. It sounds like if you're willing to do this, yeah, nothing's binding until they take a vote. But
Right.
It sounds like, my recommendation is probably gonna be in this case, because we don't have the facts and figures, don't go C2. Go to C1 with these as conditions, so that there's no substantial detriment to the public good in terms of where's this water going, and there's no substantial impairment of the intent and purpose of the zone plan and zoning ordinance. Because the intent of the zoning ordinance was to decrease hard surface coverage, not increase.
Mhm.
And this would mitigate it to a certain extent. Exactly how much, we don't know, but there might be some impairment, but you could say with a straight face, not substantial.
It will be better than nothing.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
you know what I mean? It would be something, but.
yeah. Okay. Do we have to vote on the extension? No. We're good?
Okay.
Thank you.
Hopefully you'll be in back to coding sometime in January.
All right.
So
Good luck.
talk to the contractor and have him
No, I
do
should keep
whatever
this,
and
right?
let me know what it
I should
is
keep
and
this.
we'll work it out.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, John, as I was talking to you before, before we adjourn, I'd like to discuss the idea that came out of our last meeting about moving some of these minor applications over to the board, the planning board.
You have to move them to the planning.
Engineer.
Set up the township would have to set up an alternate zoning board of adjustment.